Okay, the next step on page 15 we're on now, which is to put the linkages together for the cyclic. So that's in bag HZ2, the remaining linkages in there. So I'm just going to put those together. As you've seen me do in the past, again, putting all the linkages inside the vernier caliper to make sure that they are the same length. Very close either way, because if you can hold all three of them, then that's as close as you can get. Nonetheless, supposed to have 21 mil inside here, so mine's just a little bit over that, 21.27, but we've got a couple of angles there that we need to adjust. So two of them are going to be at a slight angle, and the one for the elevator is going to be at 90 degrees. So anyway, they're measured up and they're ready to install when it's time to put those on. I'm just going to put these aside and come back and work on the next pieces. Okay, what I've basically got now is the canopy mounts and the little Allen key that's provided, and the screws that have got to go into it. So as you can see here, I've put one in, and you can see the distance that I've used there. You've got to remember, we've got a thickness of the frame, and then we've got to go into your anti-rotation bracket. So you've got to leave enough there to be able to go into the anti-rotation bracket so that it actually bites in well. So anyway, that's almost all the way home. So once you've threaded it and you've got it in position and you're happy with it, then put a bit of CA and fix those into position. Just one more bit of information. The reason I CA it into this is because you don't want to CA it into the anti-rotation bracket, because it'll be stuck in your frame. If you've got a bolt hanging out and that's in your frame, how do you get it out? So that's why I do it to the mounting bolts, and then you screw the mounting bolts into the anti-rotation bracket. So now we've got two more things to open up, and that's the HB2, which is your main gear, and the Jesus bolt, and the lock collar. Suggest you put those in the lock collar now so that they're in position, and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, what I suggest is just checking these 4 bolts, make sure that they are in correctly. These ones were. I didn't have to tighten them up at all. Don't over tighten and strip your threads. Now we're going to put the collar at the top. The narrow part is against the bearing, so that part's the bottom, so that faces the top, faces the head. You want to make sure that that rides against the bearing, otherwise you're going to run into all sorts of problems. So slip that on and fit it in. So as you see, it's nice and free. Okay, I'm just going to leave that up there, and I'm going to feed it into the actual heli, but I'm just going to show you something first. Make sure that you line up the hole down the bottom first, that is nice and free when you pass the bolt through. If it's not lined up, all you have to do is just hold the top gear, turn the bottom gear, and you'll see what happens. See that? It goes away, so you'll have to go right around until you come back to the hole. And then check, make sure your bolt goes through nice and free. See, that's out of alignment. So just going to do that off line. Okay, so the next thing you do is feed your main shaft down and just be up from coming through the bottom there. Grab your main gear, place it in, and then you need to pass the shaft through. And it should just slip in nice and easy. Now you look through there and you can see the hole from the main shaft lining up. Once you've got it lined up, you drop your Jesus bolt through there and put the nut on the back side and tighten that up. Okay, once you've got the main bolt through, you don't need to do it up like Superman. Okay, you see how much I've got sticking out the side there? That's more than adequate. These are lock nuts, so you don't need to put any Loctite on it. And if you do it too tight, you'll probably end up warping the bottom of the gear and you'll end up causing problems. You'll have a wobble, and so put it in there, do it snug and firm, but don't over tighten it. Okay, so basically now we want to tighten up the collar at the top here. So still without Loctite yet, what you do is you push the bottom of the main gear up, so it's right up against the bottom bearing. So push it up until you hear it hit, push the collar down, and while holding the collar down with your fingers and still applying the upward pressure, so you're compressing that together, then do up the screws or the grub screws and nip them into position. And then you want to make sure you haven't got any play, so pull up and down on the shaft. There's no play there. Check the alignment of the gear and you'll know if you're right, because the black gear and the white gear there will meet up perfectly, as you can see there. Alright, that way you know you're in the right spot. Okay, so you should just be able to spin it around and the tail should turn when you just give it a little flick like that. So it should be nice and free. So now you can remove one of these screws, put some Loctite, remove one, fix it into position nice and tight, put some Loctite on the second one, fix it in nice and tight, and then you're done. Now that you've got the main gear in place, it's a good time to sit there and check and make sure everything's still nice and free on your head. So basically you should be able to just do this and it should just be able to drop. There should be no resistance whatsoever. So if you've got it like that, your head's set up very nicely. It's smooth, there's no issues. So everything's supposed to be nice and free without any issues whatsoever. Okay, on page 15 it says to basically put in all your linkages and so forth and set them up to the servo, but I'm going to do that last. It also talks about putting in your anti-rotation bracket. Again, I'm going to do that last. I'm not going to do it now because I want to set up the head later on. So I'm going to continue on. So that's it for page 16, bar putting in the linkages and the anti-rotation bracket. So I'll come back to that.